Okay, so my last video cut off abruptly, so we'll continue on from that. So we've gone and we've put some edging around the pages, we've outlined some areas, and I've used a bit of watercolour pencil to create some different colours onto the page. Again, we've got a nice cut through, we've got bits attached to our page. So we could put some more detail in. So where this is very plain, we could use one of the sheets we've got from protecting our page, and we could put that in. That way you're not tempted to kind of read the text. Also, some of the text might be interesting. If you don't like the text, you can kind of disguise it a little bit. This is it's a book about Spain, so it is relevant, but you don't necessarily want to be able to read it all. Likewise, if there's bits that you do particularly, stuck us in the wrong one. If you do particularly like, you could circle the words or pick them out, sentences, or leave whole sections that you want to keep hold of. I like things that are protruding from pages and from books. So where I've gone off the top here, I'm going to just create a little bit of a tab. So it just comes off the page. A little bit. I'm just going to blend that. And I've already got a cross there, so I'm just going to add those just as a bit of interest on there, and you could blend that in if you wanted to, again with the ink pad or with some watercolour. And then it's again not one thing stuck on another thing, but kind of blended in, less obvious. Same with the back there. Just pick out different areas that you want to add a little bit of colour to. You can also just add random lines on the page. You get a kind of lozenge end if you use a brush that's got a pointy tip, whereas if you use a flat brush, you get a very wedge shape, which can be good for text as well, or you can use it to create pluses or crosses in your book, which can add a bit of interest, and you can add text along them or just have them as background images. You can also drag your brush another page, and I'm just flattening these pages. I don't mind if it splodges onto other pages, that's kind of part of the effect. So let's find somewhere without a lot on. Again, I'm going to use Page to Protect. You can include lines on there that can become text spaces, or they could just simply be a bit of detail on the page. And again, you've got created on that page that you can use to add something a bit more interesting. You can also create shapes. Let's do it in River Blue. You can create marks on your page to use in the background. Pick up some of that paint if you want to use it elsewhere. And you've just got a bit of interest again. A lot of these will get covered up But it's nice when you're there, when you've got pages that already look interesting that you can work on. And when they're wet, you can always add bits to them. A bit more depth. There might be symbols where you're going that you might be able to pick up on. You can incorporate throughout the book, different kind of shapes. Again, I'm going to pick on the tiles and some of the Moorish influences as patterns as I go through the book, probably. So let's do a couple more pages. I'm just using again the oxide. I'm just going to again borrow a bit of pigment onto the page. I'm going to cover this up and it's going to be completely with that page, I think. So let's put some ink on that. Some glue on that. The glue is quite watery, so I don't need to put it on too precisely. I can press it into where it needs to go when it's on the page. And again, I'm not really bothered if areas peel up, it kind of suits the theme of the book. Blending. Kind of slightly crusty looking page there, and I'm going to use that for this window. So this is just another of the pages I've pulled from my guidebook. I'm going to incorporate that into the page. I'm going to tear loosely, just so it fits on the page. The goal is to have these windows that I can then use as a cutout, similar to this doorway here. And this time we're going to create windows through to the next page. And keep all the bits that you tear off, because that can be a good texture to use in other places. Ideally, I'd like the windows higher, but I like this kind of eyebrow that goes over the page, so I might fold that. And hook that over. That way that looks on there, so I'm going to glue that down. When you glue it down, if you're intending to cut something out, make sure you glue right around the edge of where you're going to cut out. I wouldn't cut this out in advance because we're going to cut through the page as well, and it just means that you're cutting multiple times. Then if you want to be absolutely sure and you've got something on this page that you want to be able to see through, it might be an idea to cut a little bit through and then you can see through before you attach it, but I've got nothing as yet. I'm just going to glue this down. Very loosely all over, and then if you hold it up to the light you can see precise, but there's two windows there that I've held this up to the light and I can see I've got most of those covered. I'm going to move it slightly over so you can still see the layers of the paper that I've put down. Sometimes you do end up covering other things, but it's all part of the process and you can still see bits of it, so it adds to the layers. I really like the way we've got a torn edge and then a very straight edge and then a torn edge again. I'm just going to give that a minute to dry because I'm going to use a little knife to cut that, and I want it to be dry when I do it. If you do it when it's wet, it's going to drag the cut a little bit. But in the meantime, I've got a pen that's quite useful for travelling because it's thin on one end and thick on the other end, and you can add some of the stripes that you find on some of the Moorish brickwork. I'm not just adding it to this line that's straight. I quite like the effect of that. Just going down the sides there. I have used this in a couple of places. I'll quite often find that as I'm going through a book, I'll have a look back and see what I've done, and then it kind of ties into the area. So I've done some stripes there. And it's nice, this particular, it's like a marker pen, so it goes through the page if it's a thin page. So it's doing half of the work for you. You've got this side, but you've also got the other side, which is inconvenient if you don't want it to, but it's quite useful if you want to get a page decorating quite quickly. So again, you could use the stripes on there. Not come through very well, but you can kind of just make that on that side. Start it to dry. So I'm just going to use, this is the old dust sheet for this book as a bit of a protector. See if we can cut it without tearing. And I'm not going to be too precise because I'm not a precise kind of person, and also I can use ink to fill in any bits that have torn or that aren't perfect. I am slightly ambidextrous, so it does make it a little easier when I'm doing things like this that I can kind of go between hands. But obviously you could turn the book to the way that you want to be cutting if you're just using one. And see, as it was doing, it's torn slightly there, but not the end of the world. And you just need to clearly haven't been quite as mean with this as I could have done. Let's see how it does. Trying to do it so that you can see at the same time. Because it's gone through several pieces of paper, it's not the neatest edge, but I don't mind a bit of a torn edge to that. So then you can go in and add paint. And that blends that in nicely. I quite like the effect of that. And then obviously you can have something poking through. If you think about some of these things as you're going around on your trip, you can always take photos that you can use to pop in there. If you've got an instant camera that can print a photo straight away, it might be interesting to have you peeking through. Or while you're there, you could always draw yourself in or a scenery behind. You could go to that exact window and find the scene. Again, take the back the same as the front. And then I'm just going to poke that window through. Just as precisely as I did the first one. You might need to help us along a little bit. Anytime you add glue or paper to the book, it just makes it a bit more fragile if it gets wet. So you just need to be aware of that while you're working on your book. Washi tape, if you've got any washi tape, is great for repairs because you can always, if you find somewhere that you're not happy with, you could always washi tape it down. It's really good to travel with some washi tape for these kind of things. So if you wanted to, you could always add washi tape to bits, and sometimes it actually is a happy accident, particularly if you've got washi tape that's relevant to the theme. The edges, I don't like white edges to things, so I will always either run an ink pad on or put a bit of watercolour or a felt pen in an edge to make it a bit more finished off. There we go, so we've got a page that's got a window on two sides. This page behind, I've got a bit of paint on it, you can see. I thought maybe when I was just preparing it, maybe I'd make that into a pocket, and that could be quite interesting because part way up then you could have something that pulls out of this area. Very easy to create because it's just a little bit of paint up the side and the bottom. And I press that down. As I say, I've torn this page previously so we can pop something in there. So if we've got a good example, this piece, you can pop that in, have that as a background, and then you can always add something to it. So I've got a little drawing here, so you could always add a drawing in. And you'd see part of that poking through. My photograph, let's see how she looks. Poking through, so it's just, you can add layers then quite nicely. So I'll leave that blank and then see what happens when I go travelling. That's the second part, just adding little bits of details. Smaller pages, filling in little paint marks. And then when you get away, you're doing all the nice bits, you're doing all the journaling and the adding of quotes and things, or the meals you're going to have. I'll save some of the details for the next video, so I'll see you in that one.